welcome to the first episode of Betfred's Road to the Betfred Derby. Yes, 4 weeks away. We'll have 4 episodes of this leading up to the world's greatest flat race. And as you can see, we are delighted to be joined by 2 guests, Frankie Foster and Derby winning rider Richard Kingscote. Before we speak to them, though, you may just be watching and realising, what's this all about? Well, if you haven't heard, have a look at this.
Almost as if he'd grown wings like Pegasus, Sir Ivor flies to the post.
But coming up to the line, Shergar is going to win it. Shergar is the winner. Very easy winner.
Today I am so pleased to announce that Betfred is sponsoring the Derby for the next 3 years. To be associated with a race like this gives me great pride. Look at some of the horses that have won this race. Seabird, Millreef, Nijinsky, Shergar, Galileo, and look at some of the characters, Sir Gordon Richard, Lester Piggott, Frankie Dettori. To be associated with names like that, what more can a man ask for?
It's Galileo, he's left them toiling, it's no contest. Galileo, a brilliant winner of the Derby.
We're absolutely delighted that Betfred have agreed to be the sponsor of the Derby and the Oaks. These are 2 absolutely iconic races, and we're very proud to have them as our partner. We're really looking forward to the first weekend in June and to working with Fred Dunn and his magnificent team to activate this brilliant partnership. Thank you so much to everyone at Betfred. Betfred's support for British racing over many years has been superb. This is just another chapter in that.
A 6th Derby for Sir Michael Snell. Desert Crown wins a sensational start.
Yes, Betfred, the proud sponsors of the Betfred Derby right now. And I say, delighted to have Richard Kingscote alongside us. Derby winning rider from last year on Desert Crown. Richard, hello. And just give us an insight as to what that day meant, because I'm assuming you remember it quite well.
Yeah, I do, yeah. It was like nothing I've ever experienced before, really. I mean, Derby Day in general is massive. And to ride a winner is just so far out there. You know, never believe that you'd do it yourself. And honestly, the buzz was unbelievable.
And I'm guessing you couldn't believe how well he won as well, Desert Crown. I mean, he seemed to have the race shot to bits a couple of furlongs out. I guess you could enjoy it.
Yeah, exactly. He picked up so well after that. It was, game over. And like you say, I could enjoy it. Can hear the crowd, and there's the pub just after the winning line, and they're all congratulating you. So, I mean, it was great. I mean, obviously I had a few nervous moments beforehand, but after he won the Dante so well, we went there, quietly confident, as much as you can be for a derby. But yeah, it was awesome.
Could have stopped off for a pint on the way. I'm sure he won that easily. And got Frankie Foster alongside as well. You won a donkey derby at Western Supermare, aren't you?
Yeah, something like that. I'm almost ashamed to say that was my first derby I've been to. And it was a cracking one to go to, with obviously the Platinum Jubilee and Desert Crown winning so well. And it's such a good event. Hence why I said almost ashamed to say it was my first, because once I went and did the weekend, I said I'd never miss a weekend again. So I'm buzzing that it's now the Betfred Derby, and it's a cracking race and a brilliant weekend's racing.
Well, it'll be swiftly followed by a second then for the Betfred Derby, as mentioned. Looking forward to the first weekend in June. Let's just have a look back at what we've learned in last weekend. This is what this show is going to be all about, looking back at some of the classic clues and looking ahead to some things coming up. Obviously, this week we've got Chester, where Richard hopefully will be in action. But we'll just look back on the weekend. I'll start with you, Frankie, on the Guineas. Obviously, Chaldine, your winner. He obviously stays at a mile, but we're looking ahead to the Derby here. I think one that may be taken out of it may have been Dubai Mile, Martin Johnson. He was staying on back in 5th. He probably ran the best Derby trial of those in the Guineas.
Yeah, and he's won over a mile and 2 before, hasn't he? So I do wonder with Dubai Mile whether they thought, you know what, let's have a crack at the mile, knowing that his better trip is further. And they thought, why not have a go at the Guineas? If he could go and win it and then go on and be even better over further, then brilliant. And if he runs a decent race into 5th like he did, nothing's lost. So he might be quite an exciting one going forward up in trip. And then probably the more obvious one that everyone will talk about will be Royal Scotsman, who just had no real luck at the start of the race, didn't settle at all, and still finished his race nicely. And obviously has that form with Caldine in the Dewhurst. So if he does improve for further, then probably the class act of those in behind for me. But Divine Mile, yeah, I do wonder whether they just thought, let's have a crack at the mile, knowing that he will be better further.
Yeah, I think he will be back, obviously, for the Derby. Royal Scotsman may be taking on Caldine again in the St James's Palace. But Richard, we'll talk about potential shortly, but Frankie Dettori's got to have a mention. I mean, he's his final year. He was never, ever going to go out quietly, was he?
No, never. I'd say he's half regretting saying he was retiring now, because I bet he's absolutely buzzing for more, as you know he would be. But I think it was a very good result for racing. I think it was an unsatisfactory race almost. Went very slow, lots of pullers, lots of hard luck stories. I think it was a good winner, and I'm glad for my horse Nostrum that Caldine won, and as well as like Royal Scotsman backing up that form as well again. So I mean, from that point of view, it reads good form, but there was, definitely some frustrating takes on the race.
Yeah, I think the ground was obviously one of them, and maybe where you were drawn. Was there anything that caught your eye further behind first? And obviously, with Nostrum, I mean, obviously the setback. When are we looking to maybe get him back? Could he maybe clash it? Same ownership, of course, at Royal Ascot.
I think the plan is to try and get him to Royal Ascot. He's back. He's fine. He just had a small setback, lost a couple of weeks, which then obviously can't go running in a Guineas. But I think Juddmonte were going to be happy to run against Caldine again, like they did last year, being sporting. So yeah, fingers crossed we can get him back.
Yeah, they're brilliant supporting owners as well. So like Prince Khaled Abdullah. Let's just talk about the Aidan O'Brien angle, because there was also a trial over in Ireland as well. The Irish Derby trial went to Jessica Harrington Spruill, 16th from 50s. 16th from 50s now for the Betfred Derby. But Aidan O'Brien had a couple beating him there. And also, obviously, Augusta Rodin never really fired on the track as well. Would there be any concerns, Richard, about the Aidan O'Brien team? I know we've been here before. I know he's always going to bounce back. But he's not had his usual array of winners at this point so far. And obviously, Augusta Rodin well beaten, although there's been a bit of money for him in the Derby market this morning.
Yeah, obviously, they've had a frustrating weekend from start to finish, really. But, it's the season doesn't revolve around a weekend, and I'm sure they'll bounce back as they always do.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And obviously, Frankie Augusta Rodin, although disappointed to see a bit of money round for him, he's the one that the voice targeted the Derby after he won the Group 1 at Doncaster back in October.
Yeah, well,
yeah, it makes it.
Sorry,
Richard, carry on.
No, I was going to say, I think you got to forgive the horse. It was too bad to be true. We know he's better than that on what he showed at Doncaster, and there was talks of Triple Crown, and so he's obviously one I think you can forgive him. Not a very nice race for him either, so I'm sure he can bounce back.
And Frankie, do you agree he can bounce back? Obviously, all the rumours about bleeding, they've been rubbish, and he's absolutely fine.
I'm sure he can. It just makes it very hard from a punting perspective, what to do and where your money lies rather than your opinions. My opinion definitely stays the same, that he's a very good horse. I think he can bounce back and he deserves his shot. Whether you want to take that chance with your own money is another question. So it does make it tricky, because there's nothing to say that he was a potential Triple Crown winner, and with more luck and Saturday could have gone and won on route to the Derby, but we'll never know. So that's the game, and he definitely is still in the mixer for the Derby.
And same with Frankie Spruill. Did you see that one in Ireland on Sunday? Jessica Harrington, 2 from 2 now as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, quite impressive. And the horse in second was a Group 1 winner last year, and he was pulling 4 or 5 lengths clear of Proud and Regal, wasn't it? Another one of Aidan O'Brien's. So yeah, I mean, looks a good bit of form. I guess it's the English bias. I'm always looking at Newmarket more so, and see those as the hotter races, and trying to hope and find a winner out of there. But to pull four or five lengths clear of a Group 1 winner last year it's not bad form at all.
It's certainly not. Back to you, Rich. You saw the King's Circle of Fire run on Friday. He was maybe as mentioned as possible for the Betfred Derby. A decent seasonal return, finishing second.
Yeah, it was a nice run. He was. They went very slow. Ryan would have liked them to go a little bit quicker, I think. But he finished his race out nicely. I think you'd be pretty happy that a mile and a half is probably going to be his trip. And as you say, it was a nice comeback run.
Yeah, any ideas of where would he take him? Maybe another trial, or could he go straight there, or is the plans fluid at the minute with him?
So today he's had an entry in the Lingfield Derby trial, and he's also still got his entry in the Dante. So just I don't know yet.
Cool. Well, still maybe we could have the King winning the Betfred Derby. Hopefully Circle Fire goes well in his trial. Just quick look to Chester in terms of the Derby trial. Look on the Betfred Oaks very shortly. The Chester Vars, 5 entered, including a rest. He was second in Group 1 Company over in France last time out. Frankie won the Guineas in these silks. Could this be a big Derby hope for him, Richard? You could imagine Frankie wanting to win his last ever Derby, couldn't you?
Yeah, and I think this horse has been talked about plenty as, a very likeable horse, and I think he'll take all the beating at Chester, and then who knows, in the Derby.
Yeah, I'm sure his price will shrink if he wins. His odds on to win the Chester Vars, Frankie, will be much shorter for the Derby. May think about backing him anti-post for the Derby before he turns up, obviously in the Enable silks.
Yeah, potentially. Let's not forget we had New London beat at 4-11 last year in this, but I did have a quick flick through, and I do think Arrest is probably the right favourite. We'll probably keep shortening the closer we get to the race, and like you said, the value might be to have a little bet on the Derby. And again, that form that ties in with Dubai Mile, I think that could be a decent bit of form. Staying on the kind of same opinion I said, I think they both probably want the Derby trip rather than back to a mile.
Adelaide Rivers and Airfrey O'Brien as well. He's going to have a couple in the D Stakes. Chester Vars, by the way, 2013 Real of the World won that, did the double. 2003, Criskin won the D Stakes and then went on to win the Derby for a certain Sir Michael Stout in a certain Sahel colours, Richard. A little bit of symmetry coming here. 20 years since Criskin did the double. Potentially, you might have a ride for Sir Michael Stout in the D Stakes on Thursday.
Yeah, so Passenger's going to be, he's entered. Obviously, declarations are tomorrow. Hopefully, they don't get too much rain. At the moment, it's drying out at the moment, which will suit us. He's a very likeable horse, and he looked good at Newmarket. And we're just at the stage we need to find out more, and he needs to learn more. So Chester could be a place where he could learn plenty. Yeah,
and you're right. I mean, you've ridden around there so many times because you were local when riding for Tom Dascombe. There, it is a track where you can learn plenty. Aidan O'Brien sends lots of his hopes out, and as John Gosden, it is a track where these youngsters learn so much on the turn all the time.
Yeah, it's a very difficult track. It does teach them a lot. They got to balance up, as you say, turning a lot. Not an easy place for them, so it can bring them on a long way.
There we go then. So that's the Betfred Derby. Fingers crossed. A couple potentially for Sir Michael Stout. Hopefully, Richard can ride Circle of Fire or Passenger in the Betfred Derby. That's a look back at what we've seen this weekend and to Chester this week. Let's just turn our attention to the fillies though and discuss the Betfred Oaks. There was a few movers in the Betfred Oaks market over the weekend, none more so, Richard, than Infinite Cosmos, a horse that you know quite well from Freemason Lodge. Did it nicely under Ryan Moore in Maiden Company and is now one of your 6-1 co-favourites for the Betfred Oaks.
Yeah, I thought she was really, really impressive once she hit that rising ground and Ryan just picked her up. She found plenty for pressure and yeah, she was really good to watch.
You spoke to Ryan, you spoke to Sir Michael, and she come out of the race okay, and it's all roads. Is she going to take in a trial in the meantime?
I haven't spoken to Ryan. I believe they hope to run her between now and then for some experience.
And Frankie said she's one of the 6-1 co-favourites at 3 now. It was a taking performance. I know it was only a maiden, but like Rich said, she really did devour the ground when they came out the dip up the rising ground.
Yeah, I think you've got to watch that final furlong really, and that tells you the story. She finished the race really, really well, and like I said, it's a maiden, but it's on a big weekend at Newmarket, and they all count en route to the big one. So she was really impressive visually. Obviously, will come against better opposition, but you would have no complaints, especially after watching Sunday.
And the 1,000 guineas, I don't think there's anything going to come out of the, excuse me, there for the Betfred Oaks. Both sticking to a mile. Looks like the Irish 1,000 guineas for Morge and Tahira. But there was the Pretty Polly, which is a Betfred Oaks trial, running line, very impressive under Sheen Murphy, Richard. Again, the further that one went, the better. But that was 10 furlongs. Sheen Murphy said maybe 10 furlongs, maybe a trip. She has got the French Oaks as an option as well, but she did it nice. And the Pretty Polly, so usually is a good trial for the Oaks.
Yeah, she was very likeable the way she went through the race and put it to bed. Obviously, Mr. Gosden said he may prefer to go to France, hasn't he? So fingers crossed for me they do that.
And Frankie, yeah, it was an impressive performance. I know you were speaking to Sheen on Saturday, obviously winning the Guineas as well, the Pretty Polly yesterday. You were speaking to him on Saturday. It was a good performance, and it's a horse that will mean quite a lot to him, being progeny of Roaring Lion. Of course, we only got one crop of his, a horse that means a lot to Sheen.
Yeah, definitely. And he's not always far wrong when he kind of mentions where a horse might go and what they might end up doing. Roaring Lion was third, wasn't he, in a derby, and then dropped back in trip and won 4 Group 1s on the bounce. So maybe they don't want to do the same, and they'll stick at the 10 furlong mark and try and pick up a Group 1 sooner rather than later. But she was really, really impressive, and the way she hit the line was, she wasn't slowing down, that's for sure. So bar Sheen's comments, I'd be quite excited about her maybe for the Oaks, but yeah, she's definitely an exciting horse going forward wherever she goes.
Yeah, it certainly is. There was other trial on Friday night in Nace as well. The Blue Wind Stakes. The winner's not entered. Caroline Street, the second's a 33-1 shot, but looks a bit exposed, so can't see anything coming from that. But there was a nice maiden of Dermot Wells. Frankie, we saw this one, Azazat in the Arga Carl Silks. 20-1 from 40-1, won at Leopardstown by 5 lengths, an easy victory.
Yeah, I struggle to weigh these up, really. Where you're looking at the 1,000, you're looking at the trials, and yes, she did win nicely, but how much that tells you, I don't know at this stage. So it's not something I'd be shouting about and saying, 20-1, it's exciting. And yes, she shortened in the market because she won well, but I'm not getting carried away.
No, let's just look ahead to an Oaks trial this week. Then it is the Cheshire Oaks. An Abel won it in 2017 en route to victory. Richard, I know you were jumped up on Cracovia. She ran the Pretty Polly yesterday, but again, Aidan O'Brien and Frankie Toys ran on with Michael Table, so it's for Rafe Beckett. It is an excellent trial for the Cheshire Oaks. Excellent trial for the Betfred Oaks is the Cheshire Oaks at Chester.
Yeah, exactly. Like we said earlier, it brings them on so much and they learn so much, particularly for them going round Epsom. So I think it gives trainers a good idea of what they've got after going to Chester. It's weird, although, the Derby's not far away, but we still don't know a great deal. So much happens within the next fortnight with York and, so it's an exciting couple of weeks.
It certainly is a very exciting couple of weeks. And I say Aidan O'Brien will be trying to sort out his battalion for Epsom, Frankie. You've got Save the Last Dance in here. He's also one of the 6-1 co-favourites for the Oaks. Yeah,
I think she definitely deserves to be up there. I know that's a bit boring, but as you said, these outsiders that we haven't seen do too much, you can't really get a hold of. But Save the Last Dance was really impressive at Leopardstown when pulling clear, really, and second and third have both won since. I think she deserves to be as short as she is at Chester, and I think she does represent a good chance going forwards. And again, it might be one if you wanted to have a little bet now for the Oaks ahead of Chester, probably wouldn't put you off that. I think she's the most exciting of the Chester card going forwards, looking at the Derby weekend.
Right, one horse from each of you that's really caught your eye. I think I know what Richard's might be. Looking ahead to the Derby or the Oaks, either one. Which horse has really caught your eye as ahead of Epsom over the last 3 or 4 days?
Yeah, I think it has to be the filly. Infinite Cosmos, the way she quickened up and finished out her race was really pleasing, and I'm sure she can take another step forward from that as well.
Yeah, fingers crossed. Looking forward to seeing her. Frankie?
Probably got to stick with Dubai Mile. I've spoke about him enough. Again, for the same opinion, I think that the mile was a let's see what happens, and over further will be better. Wasn't a bad performance at all at Newmarket, and obviously has that form over 1 mile 2 already. So quite excited to see what he does going forward.
There we are then. Dubai Mile for the Betfred Derby, Infinite Cosmos for the Betfred Oaks 2 to take out of this weekend. Thanks to Frankie, and of course thanks to Richard for joining us. Next week we'll review Lingfield and Chester and look ahead to the Dante, probably the biggest trial of them all on these shores ahead of the Betfred Derby. So make sure you join us next Monday.